just for this little moment. Lots to come on, lots to say, lots to tell you. Oh, I say that there was one little place where we might have left off the little last time around, and I say that probably somewhere around here, I probably that might have lost a little thumb protector here or there. Don't know where I put the last one I was working with, but good thing I've got the materials out here that I need to make another one right now. And so this is kind of one good type of material to use for making them. And oh well, I say that this is just among those things where if I find where I laid that pair of scissors that I last had when I was making a little pattern a while ago, and guess I have to tear it off instead because it get a little mislaid now and then. All kinds of things do, and you know, the thing we got with all this wood here, I say that there's kind of just a little more to know. And as for these little lines we made in these little things, we're going to work along these little lines that were drawn into the top of Mary's hood, where we shave along here and go up with the rest. And I don't know, I probably should have taken a little time to sharpen my knives before I started this video, so I mean, definitely going to do that in between this video and the next if I can think to do it. And that's one of those things where I've always demonstrated before certain ways I had of sharpening knives, but ways have changed. I've started kind of getting different types of stones to use for sharpening, and even one from the sporting goods section of Walmart. It kind of served me well and kind of made carving go a little bit great, I say. And this is just a time when I just want to mention little things. You know, I've learned a lot from Calvin Brandt about sharpening knives, and he was even mentioned yesterday in our Woodcarvers Guild meeting, and I forget what it was about him, but we talked a little good about him and how good he was to us, how much he really taught us. I talked about how much he really taught me, and you know, I'd say that, you know, I'm kind of mentioned in a previous video how he had passed away, but you know, we also used to meet at Manny's Woodworker's place where we would get together and carve, and hadn't kept up with Manny, who was the owner in many years, and asked another guy, Dick, in the guild about him yesterday. Him and Calvin both were kind of the two who together sort of taught me some of the carving basics. And you know, I asked him if Manny was still living. He said no, I think he passed away. And then I kind of did a little Google search to try to find out when that was, and found out it was like back in 2020. So, you know, there had been so much going on back in 2020, it was hard to keep up with everything, and including the fact that the meetings for the guild were kind of different. They were meeting in certain places because they couldn't be inside without masks. It was hard to talk to each other in the meeting without masks, and I mean with masks, and they were requiring that you do wear them inside the education center, and it was hard to carve outside in the winter. They had been doing it in the parking lot like in the fall and the spring and the summer, but I'd never really cared much to attend then. I heard they even had virtual meetings going on, you know, during part of the season, during part of the pandemic, but that was something that, never really kept up with exactly where to tune in for those. So, you know, until the pandemic, I didn't really learn how to use much of anything like Skype or FaceTime or Zoom or any of that stuff. And once we started having our telehealth appointments because of the pandemic, that's when I started learning to use that. And we kind of did a lot of other things a certain way. And then I think that there kind of got to be some ways we did our virtual meetings that turned out, after we got used to doing it that way because of the pandemic, it got to the point where that became the more convenient thing to do regardless of the circumstance. So that was how we still did doctor's appointments, but we still like to get together for our woodcarvers meetings whenever we can. So I say that there's just little interesting things to learn about this. I mean, Manny, who owned the woodworker's place, he wasn't really a carver, but I'd say he did a lot of turning and stuff, and sort of like, I'd say, made a lot of the little candle holders and things in there that were turned on lathes. Probably learned a few things about how to turn on lathes from that woman who was in there working with him. I don't know where she is these days, but she might not be around, and we don't know whether she is. And sometimes just times change, places change, people change. These days, you know, there's gets to be fewer places we can meet in life, and I'd say as for how it goes, it's just a little work of wonder for us. I've been down at the little pump yesterday for my gas, thinking about this, and I mean, there's all these different roads you take to get to different places. I mean, some places, they just aren't really the relaxing places they used to be, and Starbucks kind of changed a lot. There gets to be times when, you know, you kind of hear a conversation in places you never thought you would, and how, you know, there's so much that changes when one generation passes away and another one comes, but earth abides forever, just as that verse in Ecclesiastes tells us. I say that the time comes when we kind of make our changes in our lives due to circumstances and how times change and things change, and moreover just to how the world and culture changes. Because these days, you know, they hire anybody who's willing to work, because so few people are willing to work these days that it gets to the point that they only hire whoever is willing. And, you know, sometimes it's like you might even just kind of have to put up with what goes on out of them if that's the way it goes these days, because I say little times can change, little things can change. And I think all the days about the years of my life, always wanted to interact with the bartender while I was sipping a soda at a bar. Some people wondered why I didn't want to go there and drink alcohol. And among things I find out was that I see that there was a reason why they gave me free soda. And I mean, there were some people to whom they gave free soda because they were designated drivers for the ones who were drinking, and which I wasn't, because I was there by myself. But I mean, you know, they would kind of do that. Just, they wanted everybody to have a designated driver because they wanted everybody to get home safe. And so, you know, I don't know what they thought, if they thought they would have been discriminating me if they charged me, but maybe if they had charged me, the business could have made a little more money off of me. Could have worked that way. So, you know, they get so much of their money from all this sales of alcohol and never could notice it or realize it for so many years. And then I'd say that things change over time to where, you know, people leave early because I'm in there just having certain conversations, and then I'd say that's kind of the reason why I decide the older I get, the less I'm going to tolerate in places, and the more things I'm going to leave because of. And these days, you know, I get a lot busier with my business now. I kind of get a little busier just trying to carve things away and try to kind of get going so far as making a little more business goes and making a little more cash and money to pay off the ways to things. And little do I know, might even order myself a new canopy in the new year. That might be an essential thing to me. No telling how the money might come back, what kind of sales I might make or such, but I will say that there could perhaps be some shows in the spring for which this is going to be the way some things are going to work. Maybe try to get stuff on some new markets here and there, get stuff in some new places, you know. And there's some things I tell you of which I couldn't keep enough made, but there comes times when, as for the market we have and market we see and market we do, there's just coming times when I could probably have a lot in stock, give out to those places. I hear some of these places the rent is so expensive that you have to make so much that you can expect to sell more. And some of the things that I make, they come in fewer numbers and lower numbers, just depending on how the scraps come out. And as for the work that it comes down to being, there's got to be more to say for the far future. And I say this time around, it's a good thing that we're taking care of our stock these days and our canopies, and I'd say that this is just little work. I say make things happen all good for all company, and I'd say I couldn't wait to have many more of these nativities out in many more places, see many more people wanting them and buying them. And sometimes I like to do my own little patterns too, but these nativities have been among some of my best sellers ever, among the things that I think have always sold the best around Christmas, that and certain little Santas I've made. And as for how little work comes along, we make it a long way, seeing how things just do, how they're supposed to be, and many more things I say I probably can't really wait to carve for the future. And as for a little nativity like this, you see all the little bumps and lines. We shall thank Lynn Deal forever for coming up with this pattern and giving me a book to buy to get it from. That way he kind of gets money off the book, and when I sell these little nativities, you know, I make money off the work. I could give him credit forever for making this little nativity book and these little patterns so I could learn how to do this kind of work. It's just a little flat plain work. That's what it's called in the book. And I'd say that certain steps can always be applied. We will work harder, make more, and do more. I wanted to present to you all a little thing I was able to do today. And, you know, if you saw the video a while back where I kind of did these certain cardinals, this was the pattern for the cardinal, and I also got this pattern book for the blue jay back around Christmas time, last Christmas, and thought I was going to get around to carving it, but some of the little steps and tools that are used are a little bit outside of my level of carving, or kind of probably a little more outside the way I prefer to carve, and especially given how big the pattern is, so I shrunk the pattern a little bit. And here is the pattern where I shrunk it a little more and cut some pieces off of it and pasted them onto this little cardinal pattern to kind of make it so I could carve the blue jay similar to the cardinal, which wouldn't be all that difficult to do and be a pattern I'd be familiar with. And so I know one thing is, it's always interesting to learn what kinds of shapes are involved in things, and always interesting to read how other people carve things, but there are certain types of carvings that's for me and some types that isn't. So, you know, it's always like how, I mean, I could be professional enough to make some sales of some things, but there's just so much in the carving world that I couldn't really have all that much power or strength to do. And I say there's a time when there's a little 3/16 mark you make at the top of the head here. I've got to get all these pieces together to come up with how I am going to do that, and take 3/16 of a ruler, take it on this little Mary head, and let's say mark it off at right where it is, and see how what we do comes along. And I say, just, we got a lot of pencils in here, probably more than we realize, and well, I say, oh, the little work you do to come up with little 3C nativities. Oh, nativity work is so bland and so special and so good, I say. Oh, I tell y'all, the little work shall conquer its way to us. Oh, blessed child, blessed nativity scenes. Oh, I tell y'all, this is just kind of how little time we go about this. Bless ourselves. Whoa, I say. It's like, oh, what old Isaiah said when the cold touched his lips, woe is me, woe is me. And then we're going to kind of make the line go across here, make it so we kind of get up at the top of the angle here to make it so a little line is just making itself along, making its way along. Tell me how this is just how I say we kind of got a little ways to go about this to make work come along, see how we do. Blessed are all we do and all the things we say. I say that it's just sometimes easier than taking a ruler just to kind of mark the line in the same place on another that you've got it on one, and try to work a way around it just to make it so it's going to be a happy little face and a troll. And I tell you all that it's just where it comes along. Oh, the work of the joy of the wood is just how it does a little ways. Oh, for the things I enjoy in life. It's just kind of nice to have all the different kinds of wood together and make all the different kinds of things out of it. And I say, a little time and work shall make a happy little man. out of one who carves little bitty nativities and things, and see how we make it all come along its own way. And oh, I say that I hope you all will always stay tuned in. You know, you all will always know that God is real, God is good, and God is merciful. He just has a lot to say in His Word to us. I'll tell you all, I've kind of got these little figures made out like this, and then when it comes down to it, we'll kind of take care of that same little line on these little shepherds as well. I mean, these can be a lot of work for nativities, but come down to it, it's going to be a little blessed work for us when it comes in the end. I say that this is just what it's going to be when it just works its way down and sees how we are, sees what we do, and bless the ways that it all just makes itself work. God makes all things work together for the good to those who love Him, to those who are the called according to His purpose. There's times in my life I've been in places where I've seen people in different parts of the state where I've been, talk with different people in different little Starbucks locations in different places, and heard all the good that was said by different people in different places. Even in one Starbucks where I had a good conversation with a man in one in London, came out and pulling out under all this stress from the vacation, not really able to pay much attention to what I was doing, had a little accident out there. My insurance covered it at least, but we got to be thankful we've gotten that taken care of. I mean, that kind of made most of the summer stressful, so wasn't getting out a whole lot, but I feel like everything's better now because I'm in my new job. I met my new boss, and everything seems to be working so well there. And I'm just really enjoying life so much better. And I'd say maybe as soon as these little allergy symptoms go away, it'll be much, much better. So I say for all this little step we've taken, there's just little work we do. I tell y'all that there comes times when we're going to have to look on little things here, see what we're going to do next, but I think I've gotten the right places in here. We've already gotten up as far as to the steps where we need to be on this work. Think I might have gotten to where, hope I haven't gone too far, but this is just where we kind of, I'd say, got to the place where we need to be. Got up to, say, step 55 here, but we're going to have to kind of work on Joseph's headdress somewhere along the way. So that's probably one of those things where we might just go ahead, take a little off the top of the head of both of them, and then be ready to put that on. And so I say that that's a step we'll be referring to next when it comes down to what we're going to do. And luckily we did not take the steps too far. I think the book is not always completely accurate on where you should stop, but we kind of, I'd say, managed to do it anyway. That was kind of how it went, I say. We worked our way through it. Hope to be back on in the next video. I know there's a lot to be said these days, a lot to work on as we have our shows coming up. Thank you for coming on and watching, and take care.